The lights at Villa Rosa glow with calculated elegance as the Logan brand prepares to announce its arrival to the fashion world. The mansion, long associated with power struggles, romantic wars, and silent vendettas, has been transformed into a runway pulsing with ambition. Crystal chandeliers reflect flashes of camera light, and every step taken across the marble floor feels deliberate, heavy with implication. This is not merely a debut collection. It is a declaration, and everyone present understands that what is about to unfold will permanently alter the balance of power in Los Angeles fashion. From their vantage point near the runway, Ridge Forrester and Brooke Logan wear expressions of composed confidence. They believe they are witnessing a doomed attempt at rebellion, a vanity project masquerading as a serious challenge. Ridge, in particular, carries himself with the assurance of a man who has spent his life believing that creative genius flows only through one bloodline. To him, Logan is a name built on emotion and instinct, not craftsmanship or endurance. Brooke shares his certainty, though hers is laced with something sharper, something more personal. This is her family's brand on display, yet she believes it will collapse under the weight of its own audacity. The front rows are filled with familiar faces, their presence adding both prestige and pressure to the evening. Steffi Forrester Finnegan sits rigid, her posture betraying the tension she refuses to voice. Beside her, Liam Spencer watches in silence, still haunted by recent betrayals that have taught him how quickly love and loyalty can be weaponized. Bill Spencer occupies the front row like a king surveying a battlefield, his calm smile revealing nothing while suggesting everything. Around them, industry elites murmur, sensing that tonight's spectacle is charged with more than fabric and form. When Katie Logan steps onto the runway, the room stills. Her presence is commanding, not because she demands attention, but because she embodies certainty. She moves with purpose, her gaze unwavering, her posture infused with a quiet defiance that dares the audience to underestimate her. The collection she introduces under the name Logan is bold without being reckless, refined without being submissive. Each piece speaks of reinvention, of a woman reclaiming authorship over her own narrative. The message is unmistakable. Logan is no longer content to exist in the shadow of Forrester Creations. As the final design is unveiled, applause begins to swell, hesitant at first, then undeniable. Ridge's smile tightens, Brooke's confidence falters, and Steffi leans forward, studying the work with an intensity that borders on disbelief. This is not the failure they anticipated. This is competition. Real, dangerous competition. The air shifts, expectation morphing into unease, as if the room itself senses that something more is coming. It arrives without warning. A ripple of shock moves through the crowd as Eric Forrester steps onto the catwalk beside Katie. For a heartbeat, time fractures. The founder of Forrester Creations, the man whose name is synonymous with legacy and tradition, stands illuminated under the runway lights of a rival house. Gasps erupt, cameras flash wildly, and every unspoken fear Ridge has buried for months surges violently to the surface. Eric does not hesitate. His presence is not tentative or apologetic. It is resolute. In that moment, he is not a patriarch seeking approval, but an artist reclaiming his voice. His declaration that he is the hidden lead designer behind the Logan collection detonates through the room with catastrophic force. It reframes everything: the quality of the designs, the confidence of the launch, the quiet certainty in Katie's stride. This was never an experiment. It was a calculated resurrection. Ridge's reaction is visceral. Betrayal floods his expression, not simply because Eric aligned himself with Logan, but because he did so publicly, decisively, and without permission. The wound cuts deeper than rivalry. It is generational, existential. Ridge has built his identity around inheriting a legacy, around being the rightful steward of Forrester brilliance. To see Eric step away from him, to choose creation over obedience, feels like a rejection of everything Ridge believed was promised. Brooke's shock is equally profound, though hers is tangled in guilt. She understands, perhaps too well, what it means to be underestimated, to be told that one's time has passed. Eric's choice forces her to confront her own complicity in pushing him aside, in assuming that legacy could be managed rather than honored. The triumph she expected to feel curdles into dread. Steffi's gaze remains locked on her grandfather, her chest tightening with a sense of personal betrayal. She has defended the Forrester name with ferocity, sacrificed relationships and peace in service of its survival. To witness Eric turn away from the family she has fought to protect feels like the ground giving way beneath her. It is not anger that consumes her, but heartbreak, sharpened by disbelief. Liam, unable to bear the spectacle, quietly rises and leaves. His departure goes unnoticed amid the chaos, yet it is deeply symbolic. He understands something the others are too blinded to see. That this move may not be about loyalty or revenge alone. He wonders whether Eric fully grasps how Katie is positioning Logan not merely as a brand, but as a weapon aimed squarely at Ridge and Brooke. The realization unsettles him, stirring the familiar fear that power struggles rarely end without collateral damage. From the front row, Bill Spencer's smile deepens. He does not clap, does not cheer, does not draw attention to himself. He simply watches, satisfied. This was never about fashion alone. It was about leverage, about proving that the Forrester empire is not invincible. Bill understands spectacle better than anyone in the room, and he knows that tonight's reveal will echo far beyond Villa Rosa. His plan has succeeded, not just in shocking his rivals, but in destabilizing their sense of control. Then, just as the room struggles to absorb the magnitude of Eric's declaration, the unthinkable happens. Katie falters. At first, it is subtle, a hand to her chest, a slight sway that could be mistaken for exhaustion or adrenaline. Then her knees buckle. The applause dies instantly, replaced by screams and panic movement as Katie collapses onto the runway. Her body still, her breath imperceptible. The spectacle turns to horror in a heartbeat. Fashion, ambition, revenge, all of it becomes meaningless in the face of a life suddenly in question. Eric rushes forward, his triumph evaporating into terror as he kneels beside Katie, calling for help that feels agonizingly slow to arrive. Bill is there too, his confidence shattered, his face pale with a fear he cannot disguise. For the first time that night, he is not in control. The room descends into chaos as guests are ushered back, medics summoned, and cameras forcibly lowered. Ridge watches from a distance, frozen. The betrayal, the rage, the shock, all of it drains away, replaced by a hollow dread. He realizes, too late, that this war of pride and legacy has pushed them all to the edge of something irreversible. Brooke's eyes fill with tears, the weight of the night crashing down on her as she wonders whether victory was ever worth this cost. As the episode closes, the image is stark and haunting. Katie lying motionless beneath the lights that were meant to celebrate her triumph. Eric clutching her hand in despair, and Bill standing over them both, confronted with the terrifying possibility that his greatest victory may have exacted an unforgivable price. The question of Katie Logan's fate hangs heavy in the air, unanswered, as the screen fades to black, leaving behind a single, devastating truth. In the world of the bold and the beautiful, power can be reclaimed, legacies can be rewritten, but some consequences arrive without warning, demanding a reckoning that no amount of ambition can undo. The chaos at Villa Rosa does not end when the runway lights dim. It merely changes form. What was moments ago a spectacle of ambition and triumph collapses into a suspended nightmare, where time stretches painfully thin around the still body of Katie Logan. The music has stopped, the applause has died, and the room that once pulsed with power now holds its breath in collective dread. Fashion insiders, socialites, and rivals alike stand frozen, confronted with the brutal reminder that no legacy, no vendetta, no carefully engineered victory is immune to the fragility of the human body. As emergency responders work to stabilize Katie, the emotional architecture of everyone present begins to fracture in different ways. Eric Forrester kneels beside her, his earlier defiance erased, replaced by raw terror and guilt that cuts deeper than any professional betrayal ever could. In that moment, Eric is not a designer reclaiming relevance or a patriarch making a statement. He is an aging man facing the possibility that his final act of creative rebellion may have come at the cost of the woman who believed in him when others dismissed him. The weight of that realization settles heavily in his chest, far more suffocating than the years he spent sidelined. Nearby, Bill Spencer stands immobilized, his trademark confidence utterly dismantled. For perhaps the first time, Bill is confronted with the terrifying limits of his own control. The chessboard he thought he mastered has splintered beneath him, and the move he believed would secure dominance now threatens to destroy something far more personal. The look in his eyes is not regret for the plan itself, but fear that he may have pushed the game beyond a point where consequences can be negotiated, bribed, or outmaneuvered. Across the room, Ridge Forrester remains rooted in place, his expression hollow. The betrayal he felt moments earlier no longer burns with anger. It has curdled into something far colder and more dangerous. Ridge realizes that the war he believed he was fighting, one of brands, loyalty, and legacy, has been revealed as painfully small compared to what is now unfolding. Watching Katie lie motionless forces him to confront the possibility that his relentless need to protect Forrester creations may have blinded him to the human cost of endless rivalry. For the first time, he wonders whether winning has become indistinguishable from destroying. Brooke Logan is torn apart by conflicting emotions she cannot reconcile. As Katie's sister, fear grips her with suffocating intensity, But beneath that fear lies a deeper, more corrosive guilt. Brooke understands better than anyone the emotional pressure Katie has endured. Years of being underestimated, overshadowed, and quietly dismissed. Seeing her collapse at the very moment she finally claimed her power feels like a cruel cosmic punishment. One Brooke cannot shake the feeling she helped engineer. The pride she once felt curdles into self-reproach as she begins to question whether she ever truly protected Katie, or merely benefited from her resilience. For Steffy Forrester Finnegan, the scene is devastating in a different way. She watches her grandfather break, her father unravel, and her family's legacy fracture all at once. Eric's public alignment with Logan still stings, but now it is eclipsed by the fear that his choice may have triggered an irreversible chain of events. Steffy has always justified her ruthlessness as necessary protection, yet tonight forces her to confront the possibility that protection without empathy becomes its own form of violence. The Forrester name, once her shield, suddenly feels like a weight she no longer knows how to carry. As Katie is rushed from Villa Rosa, the mansion is left hollowed out, its grandeur mocking the devastation it just hosted. Guests disperse in stunned silence, aware that they have witnessed something that will reverberate far beyond fashion headlines. The launch of the Logan brand has succeeded beyond expectation, but its triumph is now inseparable from tragedy. The story will not be remembered solely for Eric's shocking reveal or Ridge's public humiliation, but for the image of Katie Logan collapsing under the crushing weight of ambition, rivalry, and unrelenting expectation. In the hours that follow, the aftermath begins to unfold with brutal clarity. News spreads rapidly, reframed and sensationalized, but stripped of its emotional truth. Speculation replaces certainty, and blame circles endlessly without resolution. Some whisper that Katie pushed herself too hard, others that the shock of Eric's reveal overwhelmed her, and still others quietly suggest that this was the inevitable consequence of a war that had gone on too long. Each theory offers distance from responsibility, allowing those involved to avoid confronting their own roles in what transpired. At the hospital, time moves differently. Every passing minute stretches into an eternity for those waiting, each heartbeat measured by the rise and fall of machines rather than hope. Eric refuses to leave Katie's side, haunted by the thought that his desire to create again may have stolen her chance to enjoy what they built together. Bill paces relentlessly, his mind racing through contingencies that cannot solve this problem. No deal, no threat, no leverage can force a body to heal. This helplessness gnaws at him, undermining the very identity he has spent a lifetime constructing. Ridge and Brooke find themselves forced into proximity they did not anticipate. United not by love or rivalry, but by shared fear. The questions they avoid asking loom heavily between them. Did they push too far? Did they underestimate the emotional toll of their conflict? And perhaps most unsettling of all, if Katie survives, will anything between them ever be the same again? The possibility that this moment may permanently reshape their relationships feels inescapable. Beyond the immediate crisis, deeper implications begin to surface. The revelation that Eric designed for Logan cannot be undone. Even if Katie recovers, the industry will never see Forrester Creations the same way again. Trust has been fractured, alliances exposed, and the myth of unity within the Forrester family irreparably damaged. The line between personal loyalty and creative freedom has been drawn in stark, unforgiving terms. As night falls, the unanswered question of Katie's condition hangs over everyone involved like a gathering storm. The silence from the hospital becomes its own form of torment, each second amplifying the dread that something precious may already be slipping away. What began as a calculated power move has transformed into a reckoning that none of them can escape. The episode closes not with resolution, but with unbearable uncertainty. The future of the Logan brand, the Forrester legacy, and the Spencer machinations all fade into insignificance compared to the single, devastating truth that now dominates every thought: whether Katie Logan will survive the cost of a victory that demanded more than anyone anticipated. In this world, ambition may ignite revolutions, but it is vulnerability that ultimately decides who pays.